الله والله 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 الله والله والله
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. I am Bilal Abdul Kareem for Face the Truth. And we are in the neighborhood of Sukkary in the city, which was the once sprawling city of Aleppo. And as you may know by now, there was a fierce airstrike in this area that leveled this building right over here behind me, and also killed quite a few people. We're going to be getting some numbers in a brief second at the hospital itself, both from the doctors and from the patients that were there. Now, right now, standing to my right, I have the director of medical affairs. If I said that right? And he is Hassan Al-Halib.
حسان الحليب.
حسان الحليب. And نريد نقول لك السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته.
وعليكم السلام ورحمة الله.
What is this building and what happened?
This building is a civilian structure. The civilians living here have been living here for a very long time. It contains 7 stories, this building. It was hit by a vacuum bomb from the regime, in the same instance that the hospital was hit with another vacuum bomb. This building was destroyed in its totality. 5 families were living here. Each family has 4 to 5 individuals, and each family has 3 to 4 children. All of them were martyred. Until now, 4 days later, we are still removing the rubble. Unfortunately, bodies are still coming out. Until now. Today we removed 3 bodies from under the rubble, 4 days later, and we are still removing bodies. Until now. 4 days later. All of this rubble you see, all of this is from that building.
How many people died?
The total deaths until now are 65. 65 martyrs. A huge amount of injuries. The ones that are in the hospitals, inside and outside of Aleppo, are 40 people still in the hospitals until now, not counting the minor injuries.
I must tell you, the Russian government said that they are targeting Jabhat al-Nusra and ISIS. Is it possible that there are some headquarters for Jabhat al-Nusra in this area?
ISIS does not exist here in Halab at all for more than 2.5 years. They have no bases in Western Halab. In Western Halab here in Sukkary, Jabhat al-Nusra has no bases also. Any bases they have are in other areas. They're not here in Sukkary specifically at all. Specifically in this area. There is no military presence in this area at all. There is no bases. There is only constructions here for civilian constructions. These people have been living here for 10, 20 years. They've been living in this area. This hospital, we refurbished it at the beginning of the revolution. We receive cases of injured people. Most of the cases we receive are women, children. We also receive people that need general surgery. We have the only heart care facility here in this area. We also have internal care. It is one of 3 children's hospitals here in Halab. And we also have a specialized first aid unit.
Okay, I've noticed something here. I want the camera to come with me. If you can, please come with me. Look at this car. This car, I want the people to understand the situation. and the missiles that hit. Is it possible we can film this? This car.
Here there is two cars. The lower car, the pickup car, the lower car. That's my car.
This is your car.
It was destroyed when the vacuum bomb hit the hospital. In that place. The car on top of it, that's the hospital's car. It's a Volkswagen. It was next to my car when the bomb hit. This picture describes the reality here in Halab.
Even me, it looks as if it's just metal. I can't
Yes,
tell that it's
it is only
actually
metal
two
left.
cars.
Yes, it was on fire. It had a big fire. Next to it, unfortunately, there was a person standing. As the workers were removing rubble and getting people out and getting the marked people out, it was on fire for 7 to 10 minutes. He ended up getting burnt and he was taken to another hospital in Halab. And then he was removed from Halab. And until now, we don't know what this man's fate is. He was burnt from the car.
Is there a shortage regarding the number of doctors? Is this a problem that you have?
Yes, this is a huge problem here in Halab. Since Halab was liberated 3.5 years ago roughly, the doctors that were here in Halab have left Halab. Some of them they left the liberated parts of Halab. Some of them went to live with the regime. Others went to Turkey, others went to Germany and Europe. Some of them went to live in liberated Idlib. The doctors that are here in Halab, roughly 60 to 70% of them are not original inhabitants of Halab, but they are Syrians from other places. They left their areas and came here to present the service which is needed with their skills. There is a huge need for doctors here in Halab.
Have you done any type of campaign or call for doctors around the world?
We have called on doctors from other places, Syrian doctors, Arab doctors, and doctors in general from other parts of the world.
And the result?
Unfortunately, there's many complications. The main complication for doctors not coming from outside Syria are the border problems. As for Syrian doctors, when they see the rockets, the barrel bombs, they back out. We have spoken to many people. We've spoken in person, we've spoken adverse, and no one's coming. They say there's rockets, there's barrel bombs. No, we don't want to come to Halab. We'll stay outside of Halab. As for non-Syrian doctors, there's other complications, many other complications. Most of them don't come as they fear to be labeled as terrorists. Every person which enters Syria which is not a Syrian, he will be labeled on return as a terrorist to Turkey and then to his country. He will be labeled as a terrorist. He will be questioned in the area, in the airport for 2-3 days. He will be interrogated. We had a Syrian doctor here. He had a Bulgarian nationality. He was working here with us for 2 years in this hospital. Every time he goes back to visit his family in Bulgaria, he is given problems in the airport. He is stopped. He is questioned 2-3 hours. He went and returned many times, and every time he would have the same problems. He stopped coming. He feared to be labeled a terrorist.
So this is the problem. The problem is not only that there is no response regarding the campaign, but the other problem is that perhaps there's a person who is a doctor who's in America and Canada, and he comes to Turkey and he wants to come to Syria, but the people will say, you're a terrorist.
Yes, there is two problems. The first problem is the fear of doctors from barrel bombs and rockets. The second fear is terrorism, to be labeled
so
a terrorist.
About you? What are you going to do? Why didn't you go to Turkey? Are you planning
No,
to go?
no. I will stay here. Either I will have one of two fates. Either victory against the tyrant, the criminal Bashar, or death. I will die with a barrel bomb or some rocket or something like this. I don't care. It doesn't matter.
Is it possible that you can show me the place where the rocket landed?
The rocket that targeted the hospital, it was here, in front of the hospital. It was. Now we've covered the place where it hit with sand. It doesn't make a huge crater in the ground because it sucks in. This is a vacuum bomb. It sucks in the things around it. It was the main cause of damaging the first aid department and the hospital. There was a huge amount of shrapnel. And the service car, the hospital service car, was over here, and it ended up all the way over there. Over there.
There?
Yes. It was exploded. It exploded in the totality. The other car, my car, it burnt, and after 7 minutes it exploded. Everything is on cameras. We have a camera over there, and we have another camera over there, and the camera over there. Everything is documented, and we will spread it. The main destruction that happened to the infrastructure of the hospital was in the emergency service department. Why? Because we cannot put sandbags in front of the entrance. As we enter, we take in beds, we take in chairs, we take in wheelchairs. So we can't sandbag it in its totality. And the largest damage was in the first aid, or the emergency department. 90% of it was destroyed. The martyrs, the injured, most of them in the first aid department, emergency response department. The internal parts of the hospital, most of them were damaged due to the vacuum of the vacuum bomb. 80%. 80% of our lab was destroyed. The mother's section, it was destroyed. It was destroyed. The equipment we have were all destroyed. We had 8 incubators, and other equipments, all of them dropped or fell on the floor, and they were all destroyed. The internal care unit is far from here. We had 2 internal breathing equipments. They were destroyed. The general surgery department and the women's department on the ground floor, it was less affected, 20%, as it was under the ground. As for our main loss, it was a loss of 5 members of staff.
I want to ask you, regarding the world at large, is there a message that you think that the world doesn't know about this struggle here in Syria? Sometimes, when I'm here inside of Syria, I think that the people understand the situation, but outside, they don't understand. If you could speak to the entire world, what would you like to say to them?
This struggle is a struggle which is 50 years old. The roots of the struggle are the Assad family seizing rule in this country. The Assad family is coercing people, coercing the Syrian people by the power of the army, by force, by the power of the intelligence services. All this to stamp down the Syrian people.
Is there hope that finally the world at large, after 5 years of these massacres, as you can see, finally will help the Syrian people? Is there hope?
There is hope, but it's very, 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 very extremely weak. This is not the first time the hospital was targeted. This is the 5th time it has been targeted in these 3.5 years, which it has been operational. 5 times it was targeted. This is the 5th time it was targeted. 2 of 8 doctors in this hospital were killed. This is a huge amount. 2 of 8 doctors. We have 6 doctors left. 3 people from the other people working in the hospital were martyred: the nurse, a maintenance worker, and a guard. We lost all of them. The outside world is ruled by an unjust organization. The Security Council, Russia has a veto in it. The same Russia that bombs us. We don't know if this rocket that hit us was from a Russian plane or from a Syrian plane. We don't know this. All we know is that we were hit by a vacuum bomb from a plane in the air. The Russians who bomb us, they have a veto in the Security Council. The International Court of Justice is paralyzed. Why? Because we cannot bring up any complaints to except through the Security Council, which Russia and China are in. They always veto us, veto our case. The hope in the international community or the ruling body or the ruling community is very weak, it's almost zero. What we want is for people to move against their governments. For the sake of civilians, for the sake of medical institutions, for the sake of bread factories. Yesterday, the water distillery in Aleppo was bombed. It was bombed, the water distillery. 5 medical institutions in 3 days. 2 bread factories. What we want is for people to move against their governments, as happened in Kosovo, as happened in Vietnam. We want the people to move against their governments. This is what we hope for. We don't hope from Russia. We don't hope from Russia that bombs us.
I am Bilal Abdul Kareem, and we're going to be moving on from here to have an interview with Abu Ibrahim, who is the director of, let me say this right.
أبو إبراهيم هو administrative.
Abu Ibrahim is the administrative director. Now, he was injured in this airstrike. So we're going to go and see how he is doing and see if we can get his side of the story.
A place around the hospital is entirely civilian populated. There is no bases, no military bases at all near the hospital, or any bases for Jabhat al-Nusra or the FSA. The hospital is a humanitarian place in its entirety, and if we return to the records of the hospital, we would find that the majority of the people who come to the hospital, 60% of them are civilians. Civilians. They have no link to the FSA, let alone Jabhat al-Nusra. Every day, the hospital receives at least 35 children. Are they Jabhat al-Nusra or ISIS? Are they terrorists or the terrorists of the Jaysh al-Hur or the Free Syrian Army? Are the women are fighters in Nusra, the ones who receive operations in the hospital? Are they fighters for Jabhat al-Nusra? They are civilians by every sense of the word. There is no basis for Jabhat al-Nusra or the FSA or any military organizations. It is in the middle of a civilian area. It is a humanitarian place in its entirety.